Hello and welcome to today's edition of the Listening Lounge. My name is Nick Day and I'm CEO of JGA Recruitment Group, and we're specialist payroll and HR recruiters. Now, they say the quieter we are, the more we hear, and that listening is the secret to discovering the greatest of stories. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's fantastic guest. Today, I'm joined by Jacqui Barrett, who's co-founder of Wider Thinking. It's an award-nominated equity, diversity and inclusion platform, but Jacqui is also an EDI specialist and keynote speaker. I wondered if you could just talk me through the main differences between equality and equity. Equity something is a word we hear a lot more about now, and it always used to be about equality. I feel like things have moved on a little, but I wonder if you could just help us with the distinction between those two terms.
That's actually a really good question because you're right. I think when we talk about EDI, equity, diversity and inclusion, it actually interchanges from equity to equality and then back to equity again. And people are kind of sometimes not really sure whether it is equity or equality, and I'm team equity, and I can tell you why. And it's actually really simple in that equality means that everything is the same. It means we all get the same thing, and that's great, and that works if everybody needs the same thing. Sure. And so the difference is that, so equality means that individuals or groups, they're given the same resources or opportunities, and that does sound great, but actually it's a blanket set of solutions. And it can often fail to identify the specific needs of individuals or minority groups. And it doesn't address deeper seated issues like underrepresentation or unique needs or an unfair status quo. And so equity is very much the distribution of resources according to need. And that's basically, it's not enough if you give everybody the same thing.
Yeah, does that make sense? It does. There's an image that I've seen, which for those visual learners who maybe either you're watching this or listening to an audio, maybe you can try and imagine this image. And for me, this is what brought it right into focus of where the differences lie. There was you may know the image, I think it's probably quite famous, I'm sure when you first see it, but there are three people trying to watch a game and there's a fence in the way. Yes. And equality is giving all three individuals of varying heights the same size box on which to stand upon to watch the game. But of course, one of those people was very tall and didn't need a box. One person, the box will allow them to see. And the third person, well, they had a box, but they were still too short. Now, that was an example of giving everyone the same, but they all had different needs. So there was equality there, but it doesn't really solve the problem. And for me, I was like, wow, that crystallizes it for me. Now I can understand the shortest person needs the tallest box, so one doesn't need one at all. You're giving everyone the same view that way. In your experience, and that's probably a very simple way of doing it, but are there any real world examples that in your work that you
I think that is actually just it's a really great visual to just very clearly articulate. A picture tells a thousand is a thousand words. And another example or image is if you think about 5 identical bikes. That's equality. All the bikes are exactly the same. And now you bring 5 different people. Those bikes don't necessarily suit those people. It could be a child, a wheelchair user, somebody who wants to carry an infant, somebody who doesn't even want a bike, they want a unicycle or a skateboard. And so in an equity model, everybody gets a bike that's suitable for their needs. And then another great example is if you think of a fitness coach who gives all of his athletes exactly the same pair of trainers, that's equality. However, in an equity model, he gives everybody trainers that actually fit their different feet. Because obviously not everybody's the same size. So, but we are surrounded by loads of examples of equality not really being equitable. And in fact, one classic example that I refer to is toilets, because historically buildings had equal floor space for men's and women's toilets. That's equality, equal floor space. However, everyone knows about the unfairness or inequality of those queues. And this is because cubicles take more space than urinals, so there's often fewer of them. Periods, weak bladders from pregnancy and childbirth mean more frequent visits. Children are more often taken to the women's toilets. The elderly, who are disproportionately women, take longer and need more frequent visits. And so that's a really good example of how equality isn't equal.
So for those that are listening to this, we have a lot of HR leaders listening to this, but a lot of business owners as well that want to get up to speed with HR strategy, make sure they're doing things right. What can they do? What can we do to try and improve workplace inclusivity, workplace equity, diversity? What are some ground rules? What's the platform we need to begin from so that we can start to flourish in those terms?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that we have to do is understand and promote the whole concept. It comes down to awareness, first of all.
Yeah.
Because we can't do anything unless we know what we're doing or we know what we're talking about. And I think just understanding about equity is most certainly a brilliant first step. And I think it's understanding for everybody in an organisation to understand and have this awareness, because otherwise it's not inclusive. And I feel really passionate about that, about everybody getting access to this awareness and understanding, because excuse me, we find in some organisations, whether it's due to budget or logistics, that certain levels of awareness and learning are quite exclusive for senior leadership. And like I said, that's just not inclusive. Everybody from the post person, the receptionist to the CEO should understand what is equality and what is equity and what is diversity and what is inclusion and what is belonging and what are blind spots. Everybody should know about it. So I think that's the first step in kind of bringing everybody along on that journey and fostering a workplace that has that recognises this reality and that cultivates a safe environment, so that it allows everybody to have discussions and understanding. And then there are so many more areas which I can talk about. Shall I just keep talking? Because there's so many areas in the workplace.
It's clearly a collective responsibility. So it only takes one person who doesn't all it, and it actually have all the best intentions, but it can fall down. And I wonder, I guess my question here is, how many business leaders, or actually it doesn't really matter, but how many people do you think are fully aware of what equity really means? Because I know certainly before we started working with your platform, Jacqui, in our business, I would like to think everybody knew the differences, but actually the feedback tells us that they didn't. And but it's been a real light bulb moment for them. It hasn't been any no blame proportion the fact you didn't know the difference in equity and equality. What it's actually done is really, as you said, gains help with people's awareness to then understand the nuances, the differences. And I'm a big believer that awareness leads to insight leads to action, and we're all trying to make change in our business to be more equitable as a result. But do you think equity is a term that's fully understood in the wider business world?
No, I really don't think it is. I think, to a certain degree, I think that is one of the harder aspects for people to really understand. I think there are very few people that actually really know what it means. And I think actually just kind of pulling it back a little bit, if you go to something such as diversity, I think most people think that I know what diversity is. But actually, I have realised in all the work that I'm doing that even that lots of people don't really know what diversity is. In that people think, well, this is about gender or ethnicity, isn't it? And as you know from going on our platform, it's so much more than that. It's so much broader than that, and it's so much deeper than that. And so I think, just with the word diversity, which most people seem to think that they know, we realise a lot of people don't, because we look at socioeconomic status, neurodiversity, visible, invisible disabilities. It's much, much broader and deeper.
Thank you for joining me on today's episode of The Listening Lounge. My name is Nick Day, and remember, every great conversation starts with great listening. Till next time.